Guess I'll just start recording now and see if this works out. Yeah, I'm Joe. I'm Mo. Uh, this will be my first video, my introduction. Dog's outside barking. Everybody's moving around the house. It was nice and quiet in here a few minutes ago, but now that I'm decided to film or make my first video, everybody's moving around. So, uh, introduction is basically everything that I do. Every time I show up to work, every time I meet up with a bunch of people, I always have stories. I always tell stories. Everybody has heard enough of my stories. So I wanted to share those stories with other people. I tell stories all the time. People I haven't seen before. Oh, how you doing? Like, oh, everything's great. And then, casual conversation will remind me of a story. And next thing you know, I'm blabbing off at the mouth for 15, 20 minutes about nonsense. Uh, I don't want to be that guy that just has a story for anything, everything, or try to one up your story. But I've done a lot of stuff, and I continue to do a lot of stuff, and I wanted to share all that with everybody. Basically, the gist of it, or what I plan on doing. So, my cousin asked me, you're going to start a YouTube channel. What are you going to put on there? And I told him that my life is pretty hectic enough where I could produce enough content to share with people and kind of amuse everybody. The different vacations I take, the concerts I go to, just day to day interactions with my customers and everything. So that's pretty much what I plan on doing. Um, really don't know what else to say. Tried to come up with a theme song to be like an intro to all my videos, and that led me to an app, a website where I was able to start creating my own music. So I took some of the inspiration from that and put it towards creating my own songs. So those will be on here. Um, I used to be the person just to take a ton of pictures, so those will be on here. Now I'm moving more toward videos and stuff like that. And, just anything that I could do to just entertain people, so to speak. I don't have no cute little catchphrase. I have a bunch of stuff that I say all the time. Just out and about doing stuff. You'll hear me start blurting out, "You got to be kidding me," or something like that. A lot of people I work with, they came up with some ideas, things for me to do. So, stay tuned for those videos. I've got a whole list of stuff that I'm going to be working on coming up. And, I just wanted to get this out there, the introduction, who I am, what I do. And it, there's a lot. Trust me, there's a lot. Uh, you know, every time I turn around, there's just another story. And, I'll walk into work on Monday morning, or Tuesday morning is the start of my week. And I, go up to my boss and be like, all right, check out what I got into this weekend. Or, check out what I saw this weekend. And I pull out my phone and I got 3 or 4 videos, or not videos, 3 or 4 pictures basically to illustrate the story that I'm telling. So, um, I'm definitely going to get those on here. I don't know if you've seen any of my other videos. It's still pretty new. I only have about 25 videos up right now, and there will be more as the days go on. Don't think I'm going to be posting every single day, just because I'm not going to be filming every single day. I'm going to try to come up with, 2, 3 times a week, I'm going to try to get something out there, but as the time goes on, then there'll be just a pile of stuff for everybody to watch, and then you can just pick and choose. But this is definitely going to be the first video. It's going to have a #1 on there, even though I've already got videos on my channel. This is going to have the #1 on there, just to basically start everything. You see my grill, and I'm gonna try to be in front of the camera as opposed to behind the camera, which is where I usually am. So I am not the type of person that just rambles on and on. I hear these people on the radio. I watch other, YouTube guys, and they just ramble on and on. I'm not that type of person. I'm trying to be, but I'd like to have some substance when I talk, not just, talking just to talk. Because my son can run his mouth over and on and on and on, and just say a bunch of nothing. So, just yeah, see, that's where I get stumbled up. Trying to make up stuff just to talk to fill in some time, but really, once I get into it, once I have a story to get into, I'm at least going somewhere. I try to have a point to where I'm trying to get to. I'll stutter and stammer a little bit, but I'll get you there. Wanted to introduce the bucket list. Everybody should have a bucket list. There's a lot of stuff that's on the bucket list that I've already done. I don't have a video for it. I don't have pictures of it. Some of the stuff I do have pictures for. So I went online, basically, type in bucket list ideas or whatever, and it's going to just spew out a bunch of stuff, a bunch of things that everybody wishes they had done but haven't really done, or if they have done it, whatever. So I just basically copy and pasted all that. A lot of good ideas on there. I came up with some of my own, and I plan on doing them. And just there's like 800 on the list right now. Different places to go to, different things to do. You know, and I'd like to do them and record them, and those are just my ideas and things to put out there. So stay tuned for that. Those will be in a completely different section or a different playlist. But like I said, this video is my introduction, so I wanted to just tell you about that. Um, we travel different places, things. Um, for instance, there was the Castle in the Clouds. There was we went to West Virginia and saw this Civil War or pre-Civil War battleground. What was that? Smith, I believe it was. This was 2020, somewhere in there. So everybody knows what happened during that time, and things are a little hazy about that. But just different things. So the traveling is going to be in there. Um, the bucket list stuff. You know, all other entertaining stuff. Not necessarily entertaining, educational. As somebody once said, for posterity, be able to look at when I'm older and be like, oh, I did that. So a lot of people, they have pictures and stuff. Or my aunt used to have these albums and hundreds and hundreds of pictures on a shelf. But now they'll be out there, and everybody around the world could watch it, and I could always go back and watch it again. All right, one story before we go, before I finish this. I want to basically illustrate what I was talking about earlier about not trying to be that guy. When I was in Prototype, we used to meet up every morning. I think it was 7 o'clock in the morning was when we had to meet up and everything. And it would be before then, 6:45, 6:30, whatever. We would all just kind of meet in the meeting area and just kind of stand around in a group telling stories. Oh, what'd you do this weekend? What did you do last weekend? How'd you grow up or whatever? Just whatever stories we used to do. And we had this guy. He was actually my roommate, so it made it a little more difficult because I had to go home with him every day. But he would wander around, whatever, and then eventually he would find his way over to our group, and he would basically insert him in any conversation that we had. Somebody would be like, well, I rode a horse this weekend. He'd be like, oh, well, I knew a guy that rode a horse, or whatever example he had. He was the type of guy that would want to one up your story, and it really didn't make sense, or it really wasn't believable. If it was true or not, it didn't matter. It's just he had a better story than you did, and it didn't matter what it was. So, one morning, we see him walk in the room, and he's kind of beelining it towards us. So I, abruptly ended everybody's conversation. I'm like, hang on a second. Jeff's coming here, and I was like, hey, Steve, I'm going to ask you a question real quick when Jeff gets here. So just make sure you answer the question honestly. It's like, all right, all right. So Jeff, comes to the circle that we're standing in, and nobody's really saying anything because, I had stopped the conversation. And so he's kind of standing there a little bewildered because he was ready to just insert himself. And I just turned to Steve and I was like, hey, Steve, you're into martial arts and stuff like that. Have you ever broken any boards? And, Steve's like, oh, yeah, I used to go to tournaments. And one of the things for whatever belt he's like, oh, we had to break a board. And he said in a tournament, he broke a concrete block. I was like, oh, that's pretty impressive. Hey, have you ever broken a concrete block with your head? Just something crazy out there. And I asked him that. And he says he actually did break a concrete block with his head. And that was just me asking him a question. I did tell him beforehand to answer honestly, and he said he broke a concrete block with his head. So it made sense. I believed him 100%. Well, here comes Jeff with his story. And well, I never broke a concrete block with my head, but I know a guy. And he was told to break some concrete. So he went off the side of the road and slammed his head against the road and broke the road with his head. That was Jeff's story. And true or not, doesn't matter. Totally unbelievable. That's true. And that's the type of guy that he was. He was just the guy who wanted to one up your story. Steve was in competition. Steve did martial arts. It is plausible that Steve broke concrete with his head. Jeff is a random guy from Florida, and he knows some other guy that broke the road with his head. Totally unbelievable. So I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the guy who's like, oh, my story is better than your story. If we're standing around and we're telling stories, I will say, okay, I have this example, but it's not as good as yours. I'm not trying to one up you. I just want to tell you that I milked a cow or whatever it was. So, no, I've never milked a cow. But I will tell stories like that, but I will tell you beforehand that it may not be better than your story. It would just be similar to your story. Wanted to put it out there, share a story with you. That'll be my first one, and there'll be much more to come. Another story. This one's really quick. One day, I decided that I was going to go, or we, my wife and I, were going to go to a baseball game. Got tickets and started driving down to Queens to go watch the Mets play. I don't even know who the other team was. This was when we first got together, so we're looking at like 2012, 2011, no, 2012, sometime in there. and driving down to the city, and we got a flat tire. My truck was a piece of shit. I beat the hell out of it. I drove it many, many thousands of miles. I think when I finally sold it, I bought it brand new. So it had 4 miles on it when I bought it. And when I sold it, it had 179,000 miles on it. And I think it was maybe more than that, maybe 182. I don't remember. But yeah, I drove pretty much every single one of those miles in that truck. And I only had it for less than 10 years. So it was a lot of driving. So we got a flat, and we ended up at Sears. I don't even think they're around anymore. Sears Auto Repair to get this tire fixed, and um, we were on our way. It took like 2 hours, so we did leave early, so we didn't miss the game. We weren't even late to the game. I think we were still like an hour early to the game. So anyway, but that's pretty much the start of life is an adventure. It doesn't matter what it is or where we go or what we do. Something's going to happen. Something's going to break. Something's going to go wrong. And we have to just simply accept that and move on. So um, it's actually pretty funny when things do work out and they work out well to the point where we would go and do something and come back with a bunch of stories and then be like, oh, you know what? Nothing really went wrong. But the thing that we did was the adventure. So either way, um, there's an adventure, and it started with that flat tire, and it's now been, I don't know, 13 years, 14 years, and pretty much everything we do, and we do a lot of stuff. It's not just sit home. A lot of times we do sit home, watch TV, and next thing you know, the cat's running around, and well, here we go. This is what happens. So when I say life is an adventure, life is an adventure. You gotta live it, you gotta love it, and accept it for what it is. Good times, bad times, doesn't matter. It's gonna happen, and we just roll with it. And it's funny because we'll be doing something, we'll go through doing something, whatever it is, and next thing you know, there's a hiccup, and we turn around and be like, "Life is an adventure. Let's go." Doesn't matter, you know. Yeah, I can't even come up with an example right now. But it was that flat tire on our way to Queens, and it's been something every single time.